So sometimes people want to move their capital to a colonial region. The most common reason people want to do it is for a true one tag, because if your capital is in a colonial region, you do not spawn colonial nations. Other reasons might be being able to trade company everywhere, being able to declare on other nations, colonial nations, without calling in the overlord, and so on. Maybe roleplay, whatever. But anyway, apparently some people sort of struggle at it, so here's a little video I made to showcase how to do it. So the rules for moving your capital in the paradox approved way to a colonial region is very simple. There are two rules. First of all, your current capital must be the only stated province in that continent. Okay, if your capital is in Europe, then you should have no stated provinces in Europe except for your capital. The other thing is that the capital must be isolated. It must have no land connection to other provinces. Okay, so again, the rules themselves are simple, but the hard part is how to be creative. So I'm going to be showcasing first the brute force method, which always works. You don't need to think about it, but it's very costly and you probably don't want to do it. Then I'm going to show you other clever ways to go around it. Okay, so hopefully the brute force gives some intuition, and the clever tricks sort of exercise your mind and sort of give you examples to work with so you can apply it to your situation. Alright, so I currently have an England game, and the most brute force way is to follow the rules. First of all, my current capital is in Europe. Let's just say we want to move our capital here. Of course, right now, I would not be able to make it my capital. So according to the rule, my capital must be the only stated province in my same continent, which is Europe. So let me just first unstate everything, right? Soon enough, we'll see that that's not enough. Okay, so after doing all this, what are we missing now? Of course, this is the brute force method. It's very costly, so you probably don't want to do it. What are we missing? Well, see, these three provinces, Oxford, Sussex, and Kent, are still stated because it's in my capital state. Okay, so not so easy. So I guess here's one way, you just lose those provinces. Again, I don't recommend this strategy, but if you really don't want to think and you just want to get done, this is one way. Alright, now we satisfy the criteria that our capital is the only stated province in Europe. That's not it though. Our capital needs to be isolated. Well, again, a quick way to do it, just lose all the direct connected provinces. Alright, now London is isolated. It's the only stated province in Europe, and therefore we can move our capital. Okay, but the point is there must be more clever ways to do it because it's very costly to restate and full core everything. So let's get ourselves back to our initial position. Just out of laziness, I'm not gonna restate and core everything. Let's just have these guys restated and cored. So the question is, how do we move our capital in a more clever fashion? Well, here's like the classic way before you conquer too much. What you do is you go for another continent, right? You go for another continent that you don't have anything stated in. For example, as England, I have Asia and Africa. Those are like two easy candidates. For example, I can colonize this province. Now, this is not a colonial region, so of course I can move my capital there. No big deal. And now, look, this is isolated, and it's the only stated province in Africa. So, even though I have stated provinces in Europe, it doesn't matter. Only African stated provinces matter. So I can move my capital. Okay. So, again, that's sort of the idea with moving your capital twice. It generally saves you more points, and generally saves you the destruction that you need to do on your country. Okay, but you have other cases. Suppose you're basically done conquering the world. So presumably these are all conquered, and maybe these are also stated. You might have some stated African provinces. You might have stated European provinces. You might have stated Asian provinces. So what do we do now? Well, there's the one best place to do it. Okay, suppose you have a colonial nation here. All right. Let's just create a colonial nation in Peru. Right? And now what you notice is that this state has 5 provinces. 4 of them, these 4, are in a colonial region. This is not. This is not in a colonial region. And moreover, this is in South America. So if I colonize this province, first of all, it does not go to my colonial nation. Why is that? Because it's not in a colonial region. But it's the only province, right? It's the only province that I'm allowed to own in the state in normal circumstances, because these will automatically go to colonial nations. So I can just move my capital here. No biggie. Let's just move our capital back to Europe, just so we can exercise the cannot move to a colonial region issue in the first place. So right now, of course, we can't move our capital to a colonial region, but we can move it here. So what does this do? Well, this is the only South American province, minus 2, these 2, that you can directly own in normal circumstances. See, these all go to colonial nations. So you can sort of very trivially satisfy the fully only stated requirement by just moving your capital here. And now, even if you have these provinces colonized, you can just unstate it, and it's not that big of a deal, right? Okay, and you think to yourself, all right, let's move our capital here. It'll be great. And you realize you can't. Why is that? Because now you have 2 stated provinces in South America. Okay, so if you use this trick, you cannot move it to South America. You have to move it to North America or Australia. Right? For example, if we colonize this province, you can move it here. And now, if you really want to, you can move it here. Because once your capital is in the colonial region, you can do whatever. Okay? And I'll show a couple more examples. Another classic example is Bermuda. Okay, so Bermuda is in a fabulous position as well, because if you look at the other provinces, these are all colonial region provinces, while Bermuda itself is not. What does that mean? It means there's no way you're going to own these 3 provinces. You just cannot. And the only colonial region, non-colonial region North American provinces that you can potentially state are here. So it's just a matter of unstating this, which you usually won't state anyway. So again, here's the idea. You move your capital here. Okay. And now, well, you can't move it to North America, because to move it, you need to state it, and now you have multiple provinces that are stated in North America. Well, but you can move it to South America, like here, right? I'm somehow missing something. Let's see. Presumably these will be owned by a colonial nation, right? And there we go. Now you can move it. I'll do one more example. The other example is in Oceania. So here, it's not as clean, but you can imagine if you haven't colonized everything, these are all nice little isolated provinces that you can look to take advantage of. Oops. Now, of course, the downside to Australia is that you don't have any nice situations where this province is the only possible province you can state, because these cannot be owned by you. But, you know, As long as you're not too late into the game, this also works. So hopefully this helps. But yeah, you gotta be creative.